If you work with sound systems and audio, you might be familiar with these little boxes called a direct box or a DI box. And you might be wondering what actually matters when I go to purchase one. Is the cheapest of the cheap $30 one essentially equivalent to a 3 or 400 or $2,000 DI box? I don't know. Probably do the same thing. No, not really. Let's dive in. So when it comes to choosing a DI box, there's a couple things you want to know. First things first is just to give an explanation. A DI box does a couple things for you. The biggest thing, the thing that it's doing generally, the primary kind of goal is that inside this box, there is a transformer and it is taking a high impedance signal like a guitar, a keyboard input, something like that. And usually in live sound or pro audio, they are using a 1/4 inch cable as their output device. So you're taking that in. By the way, pretty much every DI has inputs and outputs. It doesn't matter if they're just connected. So you take that in, and then you're going to go out of the output side and into a soundboard, right? So we got one here and plug that into the XLR input on the soundboard. Now you might be asking yourself, okay, like a lot of times on soundboards, and this one included, this Yamaha DM3, some or all of my inputs have a 1/4 inch plug. They can be 1/4 inch or XLR. So you say, okay, David, like, why can't I just go grab, from the stage to the console, just go grab a 50, 100 foot 1/4 inch cable and go right in. But what happens is unbalanced signals that are high impedance off of things like guitars have a couple issues. Over long cable runs, the impedance mismatch becomes greater and you can actually start to hear a difference in it. Okay, you can have problems there. Also, interference is going to be more likely to happen over longer runs. So that's why we have DI boxes. It matches that impedance, gets it ready to go long distances, and makes it sound great. So, what are you looking for when you're looking for a DI box? Well, DI boxes can range anywhere from, gosh, I mean, at the time of this recording, like 20, $30 to thousands of dollars, with most of them sitting in the 100 to couple $100 range. So what do you get when you go with a really cheap DI versus a fancy DI, and when do you need one over the other? There's two types of DIs and that generally have some correlation with price. Okay, you have active DIs and you have passive DIs. This is a passive DI, the Whirlwind Director. Signal comes in from an instrument, it comes out, goes to your soundboard. You don't need to provide phantom power to it. It won't hurt it if you do. There's no spot to put a battery in for cases where you don't have phantom power, which, is just nobody likes batteries in DIs, right? They're just going to fail at you at the right time, at the wrong time. There's no power plug to plug this in. Okay, making it easy to deploy. A lot of times, slightly more expensive or the fancier DIs may be active. Okay, when do you use an active DI? Active DIs will, I would say, based off experience and just the science of it, in most instances will make a source sound at least a little bit better. The sources it's going to help the most with and make a really marked impact are going to be passive instruments, a guitar that doesn't have a battery in it, things like that, a cello with a pickup with a 1/4 inch plug that's got no battery. A lot of times you find it's instruments that don't have a battery in their pickup because that means there's no amplification going on in that instrument. You're just getting direct off the pickup, which means it needs slightly more oomph to get a really good sound to the console. That's kind of the best way to describe it. So instruments like that will gain the most impact or the most help from having an active DI versus a passive DI. If you have really nice instruments, it may be worth also considering an active DI that has some tone shaping controls that will allow you to get the most out of that instrument. But for most people, kind of the go-to DI is going to be a passive DI. And then you say, okay, so what's the difference between a $30 passive DI and a $200 passive DI? Because that's where there's a lot of options in the pro audio space. And the difference is going to be kind of in two areas. Number one is going to be just the build quality. I mean, this is a Whirlwind Director DI. It's a pretty old one. These ones have been known for years, like solid build quality, really just good bang for the buck, economical DI. Radial's another great brand. I've always really loved Radial DIs. And, they're a little step higher above the Whirlwind, going to be a similar level of ruggedness. They're both good quality DIs. But when you move up to something like a Radial, you do end up with a better sound because what you're paying for in that case is a better transformer inside of it that is going to give you a sound coming out that's closer to the sound coming in. Ultimately, that's what you look for in a DI. Other than that, you may have some various switches that allow you to change. Most common are going to be an audio ground lift, which is super helpful because that's going to lift the ground on the audio signal, which is safe to do, unlike lifting a power ground when you have a buzz. And a lot of times you may have, like on this one, it says instrument or amp. On other DIs, it may say pad, where if an instrument is simply too loud, you have the gain down at 0 on your sound console, and it's still too loud, then you can pad that down at the stage level and then bring it up as much as you need at your soundboard. But other than that, those are going to be the main differences. It's going to be active versus passive and quality level. Just like microphones, if you checked out our microphone video here, it's like, there's kind of a sweet spot in the middle of the range where you get a lot of bang for the buck, but you're not spending a ton of money. But ultimately, if you're working with one particular instrument or one instrumentalist and it's, they've spent money on that instrument, it's a high quality instrument, then you may want to try some different DIs. Try going with something a little more expensive, and you might find that you can tell a pretty significant difference. If you're just kind of doing, different bands every day, general use stuff, then probably stick with something pretty typical, right? These Whirlwind Directors are great. I love the Radial Pro DIs, the green ones, they're great too. There's lots of good options out there. Thanks so much for watching, and next time you need a DI or any audio gear, head over to aboveavl.com. We'll link over to the audio section here on the screen so that you can check out all our audio stuff. And next time you're putting an audio system together, let us help you. Let us ask what you're looking for. Email us at gear@aboveavl.com or go to our contact page, and we'll ask you some questions and help you find the best fitted audio gear for your needs and help you get it at a personalized price. If that sounds good, we'll see you there. Thanks.